So over the last 20 years, I have spent at least 1,000 hours facilitating team building programs on ropes courses. And I want to tell you about an idea I got during a program in 2011. So my friend Sarah brought her group out to the ropes course. It kind of looked like this. And the way it works is I would give the group a challenge. It might be something a little unusual, like take this ping pong ball and you have to get it into that bucket 20 yards away, but you can only pass the ping pong ball through slinkies. Well, the group, they weren't doing very well. They were really struggling. They started arguing. One woman actually stormed off. So afterwards, we were talking about it, and I didn't want to gloss over this because they kind of just had an intense moment. And so I decided to pull out these little drawings that I had made. And I spread them all out on the ground, and I asked them to select an image that represented something that they felt during the activity. And it changed the whole day. This one woman shared how the way she was acting during the activity was kind of how she was at home, and she didn't actually like behaving that way. And people got a lot more real and a lot more authentic. So as we were walking to the next activity, my friend Sarah says, "You know, Amy, these cards are really cool. Like, have you ever thought about doing something with them?" So that little comment sparked this idea that ended up creating this deck of cards that has been used on 6 continents around the world. And so I want to share with you the process because the thing is, if you want to be creative, you have to be deliberate. So that night, I went home, I went online, and I started doing research about what would it take to get these cards manufactured? How much would it cost? How do I print them? And as I got more and more excited about the project, I had 2 main concerns. One was that I actually would just have this idea and then I wouldn't really do anything with it, which I've been guilty of. And the other was that I would end up getting so engrossed in it that it would just take over everything. So I decided the best thing for me to do was that I would only work on it in the evening when I was tempted to watch TV. So I put this little sign on my TV that said, "No TV, go paint." So every night, I would go paint. And I'd work on these cards, and then I would take them over to my partner, Julie, who has an art degree, and I dubbed her quality control. And I'd show them to Julie, and I'd be like, "Hey, what do you think?" And she'd say, "Well, yeah, it's getting there. You know, maybe you could try some more shading. Would you like me to show you how to blend with watercolors?" So meanwhile, I'm trying to, be all sort of professional and adult about getting this feedback. But inside my head, my ego was saying, "What does she know?" Or like, "Come on, I've been working on this already. This is the 2nd time I've drawn this card. It's good enough, isn't it?" And here's the thing with creative projects. The ego is the enemy. It will get in the way every single time. So I had to figure out a way to let that go, to take the feedback and incorporate that into what I was doing. Because the thing is, if you have a deck of Climer cards, you don't care if I had to redo one image 3 or 4 times, or that my feelings got hurt while I was making them. No, what you care is, does it look good, and do they work? Do they do what they were supposed to do? So I ended up creating 52 little paintings, and then I was ready to get them printed. And I needed $2,500, which I didn't have. So I went to Kickstarter. And I launched a crowdfunding campaign. And again, the ego was like, "Oh, nobody's going to buy this." It was successful. It succeeded. And I was really excited. The first order I got, I thought, oh, people are going to give like $5. No, the first one was $100. Anyway, in June 2012, it was all finished, and I went to the little post office in Tryon, North Carolina, and kind of overwhelmed them. Showed up with 100 packages that went out all over the country. And the project was done. It was a success. It was really exciting. But then it got really cool. A few months later, I started getting feedback from people about using these cards. And I was at a conference, I was presenting at a conference in Wisconsin, and this woman came up to me and she said, Amy, you don't know me, but I want you to know that I have Climer cards and I love them and I use them all the time. And every time I use them, somebody cries. I was like, what? But actually what she meant was that people get real and they have different conversations than they would have had without the cards. And people share in a way that's more authentic and real. And sometimes that causes tears. And I've heard many stories like this. They've been used at universities, summer camps, companies, nonprofits, even at the dinner table with kids. I recently got an email from my friend Jay who said that as his daughter was going to school the other day, she said, Dad, do you think tonight we could use Climer cards? It's like, wow, I got a tear in my eye, to be honest. They're now on 6 continents. I just was in Australia a couple weeks ago, very excited. I delivered some there. And here's the thing. I had to kind of put aside my ego in order to do this project, try something new. And what ended up happening is it had a really positive impact on a lot of people. So if you want to be creative, you have to be deliberate. You might have to stop watching TV or have a conversation with your inner critic, but I think it's really worth it. You might change the lives of other people. Thanks.